We do not choose this life, but we can grasp our destiny. Clarity cannot be bought, stolen, or claimed. It can only be realized. As dark clouds gathered over the Exiled Lands, strange relics of something terrible began to spring up. From beneath ancient grounds, past root and soil, totems began spewing forth corruption, protecting strange sorcerers. The prisoners bound to these savage lands fought to stop the rituals, but the damage was already done. A harbinger of dark things to come, these echoes of sorcery would soon pale in comparison to what chaos would soon crawl its way to the Exiled Lands. The months after those first drops of sorcery were quiet, but a tidal wave of corruption was coming. Elsewhere in Hyboria, a mysterious sorcerer led a cult of disciples. Their faith came not through godly scripture nor miracle, but through the horrendous power of the outer dark, harnessed into words better left unspoken by mere men. The sorcerer, Kurak, and his cultists entered the Exiled Lands and began to weave an infestation throughout the sands. Across the land, sorcerers could be spotted conjuring their dark arts, sacrificing innocents, and hastily scrawling words of immense power into their wretched tomes. Beneath the ancient city of the Giant Kings, a place where sorcery once flowed freely, the earth shook to reveal an ancient cave. The prisoners of the Exiled Lands found this cave, and within discovered a mysterious grimoire. Through studies of the tome, exiles found themselves able to harness the power of the sorcery within, at the cost of corrupting their very souls. Powers like those brought with Kurak's cult had been absent from these lands for centuries. Prior to Kurak's march on the Exiled Lands, the Giant Kings had all but exterminated sorcery for humans. Those same bracelets that bind exiles to the lands also suppress their magical essence. However, through some dark art, Kurak had defeated the timeless magic of the long-dead Giant Kings. Kurak himself preached of self-fulfillment, of the ability to rise above what mortals think is possible. Clarity cannot be bought, stolen, or claimed. It can only be realized. Reclaim the power, heed the whispers. Corruption is clarity. Kurak's influence was felt throughout the Exiled Lands, but aside from his rallying cry, the mysterious sorcerer remained in the shadows. Nobody was quite sure how, or more importantly why this sorcerer had brought such power to the Exiled Lands. Few cared, too enthralled with their new sorceress powers. However, within the heart of the desert, a scorned sorcerer watched on with a dark envy. Beneath the hulking shadow of his spire, Mech found himself enraptured. Having been offered evidence of sorcery, Mech watched Kurak's cult infest the lands, and having seen the power wielded by sorcerers leagues less powerful than himself, his intrigue turned to rage. Many years before, Mech was a member of the Black Ring of Stygia, a powerful congregation of sorcerers. Within the Black Ring, Mech ran afoul of Toth Amon, a rising sorcerer of great power and ambition, those same traits only further embellished by his ownership of the Serpent Ring of Set. Many years before, Toth Amon had found the Exiled Lands. There he spoke with Warmaker Clail, and stole the Serpent Ring of Set from the dust-laden ruins of the ancient city. On his return to Stygia, Toth used his new artifact to gain power, forging an alliance with King Sestafon. Mech was an obstacle to Toth Amon's rise to power, and through his political machinations, Toth swept Mech aside, dooming him to a meek, powerless fate within the Exiled Lands. After observing Kurak's sorceries, Mech decided to take action. Through an unknown promise, Mech hired hordes of Khitan mercenaries to capture sorcerers dead or alive. Deceased subjects would still bear the marks of the arcane, but the living, especially the powerful, proved the most valuable to his research. Mech would tread a simple, comprehensive path towards realization. By his own declaration, those sorcerers would spill their secrets, by mouth or by vein. With each bloodletting, his knowledge grew until Mech was able to complete his own tome of the arcane. Mech still sought revenge against Tothamon for his exile, but a larger object laid in his path, one who lurked in the dark reaches of the Exiled Lands. As Mech's research developed, he began to peer through the void, to find the dark motivations that lay in Kurak's heart. Those intentions were draped in mystery, yet through the veil Mech would eventually see. Kurak was in communion with a terrible, dark figure, a man Mech was incapable of reading. It became clear that Kurak was working to serve this dark man, and as Mech delved further, he discovered their plot. A ritual, a hungry doom to swallow the Exiled Lands whole. Mech was no great guardian of these Exiled Lands, but he'd become accustomed to them over the years. Kurak and his Dark Master threatened the land, and undoubtedly those that lay beyond. Mech may hold no love for these sands, but he did not intend to die on them. He delved deeper into his research and came across a catalyst. Eons ago, when the final remaining Giant Kings were hunted to extinction, their bones fell ashen to the winds of time, but their blood seeped into the sands. Mortal blood would have merely dissipated within days, but the blood of the mystical Giant Kings ran deep into the earth. The blood would penetrate the deepest vestiges of the sands, hardening under unknown forces. The Giant Kings were a race very familiar with sorcery, and that arcane essence infused into their very life force. The hardened blood formed into crystals, stones that granted life to the earth itself, forming beasts of stone and crimson. With enough of these crystals, Mech could bring forth a dark ritual beneath the stars. As the moon eclipsed the sun, casting a crimson glow across the Exiled Lands, Mech sought to use Kurak's own strength against him. Kurak was chaos, unbridled fury, but Mech's cold, stoic control was anathema. Capturing a princess to serve as a valuable prisoner, Mech only requires one more item, the head of Kurak. Exploiting a weakness in Kurak's transmutatory stone, Mech would open a brief path to his lair. The exile, whom had helped deliver those blood crystals to Mech, would volunteer to step through and meet Kurak in the bowels of his dark cavern. The cave is draped in malevolence, the artifacts of Kurak's vile sorceries present throughout the dark stone, a tomb for many an unfortunate soul. Kurak's fevered screams echo through the cave, vicious bellows of veneration. His tongue utters ancient psionic, words lost eons ago. This arcane language is older than recorded time itself, having been used to pen some copies of the Necronomicon. Translated into modern English, Kurak's words are unveiled. Kurak calls out to Nyarlathotep, his Dark Master. The sun looms ahead, the creeping march of the Eclipse ready to spell doom for the Exiled Lands. Whatever vile ritual Kurak was conjuring would indeed destroy the chains, but not the bracelets that bind the prisoners to the Exiled Lands. They would destroy the very bonds of the lands, allowing Kurak's ascension to whatever lays beyond. The exile would endeavour to stop this horrific sorcery, however. Stepping forth into the arena, Kurak calls upon his hierophants to stop the Exiles' plight. Through scuttling darkness, past the use of arcane iron, slaying the fetid undead, and barely surviving a hulking dragon, the Exile succeeds, and Kurak lays defenceless, the ritual incomplete. His sorceries, so incredibly powerful, had wrought terrible effects on his body. Whatever ascension he sought from Nyarlathotep quashed, his human form remained racked with corruption. Kurak knows he is defeated, but even in his final moments, body unable to fight, Kurak's serpent tongue spews more venom.
I was Kurak the Wretched. I am wretched no more. Flay my flesh, and 10,000 nightmares will pour out. Kill me, and inherit every curse of the Outer Dark. I erased my name from the Book of Life, and scribed it into the Book of Azathoth. Soon! I am beyond blades, thews, and apish threats. There is only empty space, and me, and I am but a thought.
Sharp words interlaced with ancient Relayan tell us that death means nothing. His worthless body may tremble, but he has gone beyond life and placed his name into the Book of Azathoth, signing a dark pact. The Exile cuts down Kurak, removing his head for Mechamosis. As the lair fills with poison gas, the Exile escapes, back to the relative safety of Mechamosis' spire. The Exile, Kurak's head in tow, returns to a more familiar realm. Free of the corruption of Kurak's soul and his complex illusions, his head has returned to its true appearance. Beneath the hood, no longer a human face, but a scaled visage bearing sharp teeth and serpentine eyes. As the Exile trades the head away to Khitan mercenaries in return for illustrious goods, the head is delivered to Mechamosis. Whilst the Exile may now consider himself free from the conflict of the intertwined sorcerers, this is likely not the last he'll see of Mechamosis. With the captured princess and the severed head, Mech can begin his own ritual to break the bonds of the Giant King's bracelets and free himself and the others from the Exiled Lands. Mech's ritual could change the Exiled Lands forever. The bonds of the bracelet that had held so many exiles to these sands could indeed finally be broken by the new power of Mech. However, as Kurak dies, perhaps his words were more than empty threats, and those curses of the Outer Dark may manifest. Kurak's true, serpentine form may also prove troublesome to Mech. The Well of Skelos holds the final remnants of the Serpent Men of Volusia. At the end of the well stands the Degenerate, the final true-blooded Serpent Men. They'd used their foul magic to corrupt the minds of the Giant Kings, causing the Lemurian uprising, and ultimately dooming the Exiled Lands to be scourged by the Eternal Sandstorm. Through their actions, they had changed the course of history forever, but their race was waning. The death of the Degenerate spells an end for true Serpent Men, but Kurak's illusions disguise the existence of other powerful Serpent Men. It's unclear if he came from the Well of Skelos or elsewhere in the world, but it appears the final gasp of life from the Serpent Men of Volusia may not have been their last. Between the Serpent Men, the curses of the Outer Dark, and Nyarlathotep himself, great forces may be at work within the Exiled Lands, and the consequences could be grave. Nevertheless, Kurak lays dead, and with Mechamosis on the verge of conducting a powerful ritual, Toth Amon's grand prison may finally be broken, exiles pouring forth from its gaping maw. Thank you for watching. This video has been a big project, but I think it nicely wraps up where the story sits after the conclusion of the Age of Sorcery. I'd like to take a moment to thank Dennis, lead designer of Conan, for helping with discovery on certain language elements. Furthermore, I'd also like to thank J. Alan Russell, author of Russell's Guide to Interdimensional Entities Volume 1 and 2. Volume 2 named Russell's Guide to Interdimensional Entities, Artifacts and Incantations, contains the psionic glossary used for translating Kurak's psionic speech. His books are a must-have for any fan of Lovecraft, and without his help, this video would have become a much more difficult endeavour. The link to his website is in the description below. As always, a massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. Again, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.